Gentlemen, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
we salute you
Thank
from
you.
our hearts, and we also want to introduce everybody because there's a lot of men around the table. But we have 4 of the 6 military branches represented here. So James Miles Sr. is here. He's a Marine Corps veteran. Jose Cisneros is an Army veteran. Kevin Early in the striped shirt, he is an Air Force veteran, and Joe Lampert is from the Navy veteran. Thank you so much, gentlemen. We'd like to know how long each of you have served. So James, I'm going to start with you.
10 years, 81 to 91.
81 to 91.
Yes.
Jose, what about you?
Yeah, it's about 10 years, all the 90s.
Okay,
Yeah,
in the
the whole
90s,
decade,
90s baby.
It
Kevin.
was 9 years, close to 9 years.
Okay, and what about you?
24, 14
20.
active, 10 in the reserves.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, I mean, grateful for each and every single one of you.
So, Joe, what is the importance of Veterans Day to you as a naval veteran?
It's remembrance. It's it's acknowledging that each and every one of us sitting around the table and all around the world, that we all served, that we all were willing to make that ultimate sacrifice, and it's good to recognize.
It is good to recognize. James, I'm going to ask you the same question.
Yeah, so there's so many citizens, U.S. citizens, who have not served and have not experienced military service, but yet can impact it. Veterans Day is an opportunity for us to really kind of cross-pollinate and get more accurate messages out.
Yeah,
so people
and
really understand.
visibility, because I
Absolutely.
think a lot of us as children, we remember seeing men and women in uniform, and we were curious. We were initially very curious as children as, oh, that's a real soldier. And I remember flying on a plane, and I was sitting next to a young man, and he's like, are you in the military? I said, why? He's like, because of what you're reading. And then he said, I'm a real soldier. I was like, okay, yes, you are, because I was not in the military. But Kevin, I got to ask you, what kind of impact did the military have on your life?
It changed my life in a completely different direction than I ever thought it would. I don't think my life even resembles what it would have been. So it impacted every part of my life.
And I'm sure there were positive impacts, and then there were also not so positive impacts.
A few.
Yeah, a few.
Jose, let me ask you this. The military, all the branches seem to be having some trouble recruiting. Why do you think that is?
Well, actually, we were all talking about that before we came on. One of the biggest things is war. You know, today's generation was all born into war. You know, and when we were growing up, probably the closest thing to war we had was Vietnam. And there was nothing else after that. And then Desert Storm hit. And then we've been at war ever since. So that's one of our biggest things that we think that hinders recruitment too, is because of there's a good chance that you're going to come home in a body bag.
Wow.
Well, and that's the harsh reality. And I mean, so many are going home in a body bag if they don't have the direction that they need. We look at some of the violence that we've seen across major cities in America, but to actually serve your country and to put your life on the line is a totally different thing. James, I have to ask you a question. What do you think can be done to help this generation be willing to make that kind of ultimate commitment?
Yeah, so before the body bag, the pipeline, we have issues of obesity, you have issues of academic preparation, you have other, and that reputational quality that needs to be shifted. So there could be efforts to improve physical fitness. There could be efforts to make sure people understand accurate stories. This is at this point, this is the lowest number of policymakers who have military experience. And so really creating more favorable climate that can help people understand service and what that means and how the policies affect it could really go a long ways to improving the pipeline.
That's really interesting, too, because we have been at war, as you said, for 20, almost 30 years, and yet we have the fewest policymakers that are veterans. There's plenty more veterans coming out that have an opportunity to serve, and they're not running for politics. We're close to the deadline here, but Joe, I want to ask you before we go, what are some things you learned from your service that you apply to everyday life outside of your service?
First and foremost, discipline. You can always spot a veteran a mile away. It's the way we walk, it's the way we carry ourselves, stuff that was instilled in each and every one of us while we served, and completing the mission.
Yeah, completing the mission.
Everything is a mission, and that's what we're trained to do, complete the mission.
Well, we're grateful for each and every one of you serving our country as your mission. Well, Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.